Welcome to the Night Temple, a weekly podcast about art, memory, and inspiration. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Night Temple. I'm Andrew.
I'm Carisa.
We're doing something a bit different today. We had a scheduled podcast ready to go with a great artist, but we're in the middle of recording this on January 14. So we're kind of in the middle of wildfires. So we didn't want to just drop our normal podcast, which we recorded before the fire started. So we're joined today by composer Catherine Joy, who's a longtime friend of ours. She's a wonderful composer. She also runs Joy Music House, which provides score productions services for composers. She's got lots of wonderful credits, but does amazing work. And but we just she's a fellow Australian living in LA. We live in pretty much the same neighborhood, so we've had kind of parallel experiences. But we just kind of wanted to check in with our friend, and also just talk about what's going on with our composer community in LA, with our Australian community in LA, and with our musicians, and just all of us who are kind of experiencing this thing.
Composers, film workers, all of us that have just been connected so many times through events and working together in various ways here in LA, and then suddenly we're all hit with this crazy, devastating, crazy experience, and then those same people in the music and film world that we've known and connected with and loved, we're seeing homes destroyed and stuff like that. So welcome, Catherine.
On that note,
welcome. We're going to have you on and talk about just specifically you and your music, and
we'll do that another time.
Today we will. And I think today is about talking about how, I think, individually as composers and also as a community, how we cope and survive through something like this. I think especially for us in LA, the timing of this is so incredibly brutal because everyone's been looking forward to 25 as a new start, and 24 and 23 were really brutal times for our industry. That work slowed down because of the strikes, because of many different reasons. And there was a slogan in 24 that was "Stay alive till 25," and in New Year's Eve there was this real sense of like, see ya to 24, and like, let's get on with it, And now, like, literally our city is on fire, and it's on fire, and the cost of this fire, the devastation, has been absolutely bewildering. I think especially because it's affected so many urban areas. And I think, I evacuated for one night. I think, did you guys take off that night too and go somewhere else?
We were going to.
Yeah.
You were going to, you were ready to go. Yeah.
We were ready to go.
I have my mum here as well upstairs, right. Her dogs and my dog. And because it wasn't just a space for us, it was a space essentially for 6 creatures, including the humans.
Human and animal.
Human and animal. It was a bit tricky. And then also I just saw your little creature.
Yeah, one of my creatures.
I also just found that my brain just didn't work. And I feel like when I've spoken to people, it's been a bit of a collective kind of weird experience. I mean, when we have fight or flight, our amygdala, our limbic system, our amygdala in the brain gets triggered, which is, the animal part of us that goes into fight or flight. And when that happens, the frontal cortex shuts down. It's like it gets hooded. And so all the parts of us that are able to make logical sense of things or planning or the higher the higher functioning parts,
yeah, totally.
the cognitive parts just shut down. And I really just felt that, and spoke to a lot of people that had that experience as well, and might not know about how the brain works with trauma. So I just wanted to throw that out there too. It's just fight or flight. You could go into freeze as well. And
exactly.
And that
it's such a challenge. I think it was a real challenge in that moment. I was feeling I'd had an experience like a day or two earlier where we had lost internet, and then I just couldn't get any updates on my phone. Like I couldn't even get 5G in my apartment for some reason, and I was really freaked out about Runyon Canyon being on fire, Griffith potentially going up next, which is right above me, and then not being able to get info. And so, and also, as you guys know, my assistant, Ida, who's, a younger person and got a grant, kind of saved up everything to come to the States to work with me. She's an only child of a Turkish Australian family. I feel very responsible for her. And her boyfriend is also here. Another young Australian whose family I feel very, I just feel very conscious of that. So I was like not only worried about my cats, but also these two young humans. And and all of these things kind of come into play when we're dealing with these crises. And then I was worried about everyone in our building too. We have a lot of elderly people in our building whose health is challenging. So it's really been a crazy time. And to address what you're talking about, apart from the evacuations, we evacuated, we came back the next day. It was traumatic, but we made it through. But just the general vibe right now, the general feeling I certainly have every day is exactly what you're talking about, Carisa, is kind of the brain fog, just absolutely just feeling completely drained and emotional, but also numb, and being a freelance creative during this time is really challenging, because there is some work that we need to keep going. I was in Sibelius working on notation until an hour before evacuation because parts of the city is still up and running, and some projects are still moving forward because not everyone is directly impacted. And certainly if you have projects that relate to other cities, I have a project out of Seattle and out of New York right now, so they're fine. Thankfully they're very conscious of the fact that we're not fine, so that they've just definitely been holding space. But life doesn't stop when you have a disaster going on.
It's such a weird state. It's like kind of connecting with people. It's like we just connecting with people and going, I don't know. Okay, so I'm connecting with someone in LA who, on some business email, and I'm just like, I don't know where you're at. You could be fine, and you could be
not fine.
You could be not fine. You lost your house.
Yeah.
Maybe you've had family members lose their house. Maybe you've had family members lose their lives. Or it's like it's just such a weird time to just kind of go, oh, business is normal. Like
I know exactly.
It's like
it's very strange.
Like we said, we had a similar experience to you, like that we're close to the Runyon fire, and so we were just like, all right, we got to get our evacuation plan, and we got our things packed up, and we got ready to go, and tried to kind of line up, because we had dogs and with multiple people and all trying to figure out.
It took us so long that
I know.
The fire was contained by the time.
And then we're just like, well, but I mean, our plan anyway was just like, we'll just be ready to go, and if it gets worse, we'll go, and it got better rather than worse, because we're lucky that that with that particular fire, the wind had dropped at that point, so
there was a lot of factors that really worked in the favor of that.
Go in and
drop. They were amazing
and get control,
which amazing.
For those who don't know, is the winds, the reason that the Palisades and the
Eaton.
Eden Fire were unable to get control because they couldn't fly planes to drop
They
water.
couldn't fly planes. They couldn't have that air support and the winds.
The winds so crazy.
I was actually seeing like an Australian thing about it, and she was in the interview was like, why couldn't they contain it? And the expert was saying, when there's 100-mile-per-hour winds, you're not a firefighter, you're an observer, and you're literally just doing what little you can. But really, with just the weather conditions, it was an impossible task.
Yeah. The Santa Ana winds, for anyone that's watching that isn't in LA, are a type of wind that come through LA sometimes that are very, 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 very dry and potent and dry. And there's this incredible like Joan Didion thing about it. I might.
I saw that
along with this podcast. You saw it as well. Yeah.
The Joan, like that. Joan Didion, who was an incredible LA-based writer. I don't think she was born here, but she lived a lot of her life here.
Yeah.
And what she was writing about, specifically about the Santa Anas, right? It was just incredible. Yeah. Incredible reflection.
And just things like, suicide rates go up during the Santa Ana winds, and all kinds of because it affects your mind when they come through. They're very dry. They have a bit of an apocalyptic kind of sense to them. They're almost haunting.
Yeah, and they're part of the mythology of LA.
And they're part of
Like Raymond Chandler talks about, there's like some Raymond Chandler novel where it's like when the winds blow, like someone's gonna get killed, someone's going to get stabbed or something. I don't know. I can't remember what it is, but it's just and that's back in the 40s. So it's just like it's real part of the the mythology. That everyone kind of understands. Hey, when the winds blow, like things are weird.
Yeah,
but
there's I don't know. The movie The Holiday with Jack Black.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a very much more positive take on the Santa Ana.
Really?
What is he? I don't remember it.
I mean, you can look up the clip on. Everyone should look up the clip on YouTube. But there's this great interaction between him and Kate Winslet, who's just showed up from England, and he's like, "When the Santa Ana winds blow, anything can happen," But it's said in a very like magical, positive way. There's no mention of stabbing.
Yeah.
Not to invalidate your statement.
Well, anything good or bad.
Yeah, well, it could go either way.
Yeah, we were talking to someone that rode a bike over here and was like, I forgot the winds were out, and it's kind of eerie and really moody. It's kind of pretty that it's so like I think his exact words were like, haunting or something like that, to ride home to. And then the next second it just went completely out of control within the day.
Fire started,
the fire started and it turned, and it was coupled with the fact that we've had no rain at all this season.
Yeah.
And LA is dry as it is, but usually we get some more rain in January and February and even March, and even then it's kind of a bit of a disaster because everything's been dry for a year, and it cracks, when the water comes.
Exactly.
So I was kind of I had braced myself for that because there's always some sort of leak or some leak, it seems, that I have to deal with every year. Didn't expect to be fire. The opposite. Yeah.
And I think one thing that I think we've all been feeling too is the general misunderstanding people have about Los Angeles. And I've lived here for 12 years. I think you've lived here for a similar amount of time.
16.
We're transplants and we're immigrants. We're people who gave up a lot to be here, and I've always felt so incredibly grateful to be here. It feels crazy being a Tasmanian in Los Angeles, and for me, I will say before I moved here, I also didn't understand LA. I didn't like it, and once I started visiting here more from Seattle when I got into film music. I really fell in love with the city. The city is so vast. It's so it has all these just different pockets of like such diversity. And I love the people that are drawn to LA, because people come here with big dreams and big goals, and I love the people who've lived here for generations, because they all seem kind of like unicorns, the people that have been here for 3 and 4 generations. But that there's this such a misunderstanding, I feel, about the city and about its inhabitants from a lot of people, like, just in ignorance, really. Like the kind of the impression is, if you're here, you're rich, which is hilarious. It's just
it's absurd.
It's absolutely absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And we're all here like making movies. We're all like constantly going into debt to make our dreams come alive. I mean, everyone, I even heard an interview with Kevin Costner many months ago about the 3-movie series he's putting out, and he's like, no studio would buy it, so I just had to fund everything myself. That's what people here do. They get a dream, and then they just kind of put everything. He was putting like his houses and everything on the line to make his dream happen. And obviously he's in a much better position to do so. But I mean, it's still his money, and the movies could make nothing, and then the money is gone. So, everyone, that's on the large scale, and it happens on the small scale. Night Temple, an excellent example, all the time, where people pull their funds to do something beautiful for the sake of art, purely. And that's
and
just a huge part of what LA is, And so we're not like a bunch of, rich fuckers. I'm assuming I can swear on here.
And it's, that's perfectly. And, for anyone who's not Australian watching, for the US people, Australians do tend to swear.
We do tend to swear. Forgive us. It's about the joy that is Australians.
It is, I remember seeing a really funny comedy routine by someone who was impersonating an Australian, and they were, I can't remember, I think they might have been Irish, and they were just like, and then you've got the Australians that are like, fuckity fuck.
Exactly.
It's really funny. Not all Australians, but it's a common thing. But I mean, a lot of people don't understand from out of here, realize how many working class families live here as well. I mean, there are generations of, very diverse communities of people who have lived here a long time, Latin communities, Black communities, blue collar communities, like people. There is a big working class. Even and they're not, necessarily even artists. They're just people living their lives.
Exactly.
In this city that's not easy to live in all the time, but absolutely wonderful to, I love LA so very much. And the things that make it not easy can be, things like landlords gouging, tenants and stuff like that. But beyond that, I think it's a really special city, unlike anywhere else on earth, where, there are these wonderful working class families, but it's true that all of the, artists, the creative black sheep of, their towns and families, have journeyed here because, it's the place to be. It's the place where that is celebrated and respected. Respected and enjoyed.
It is celebrated, and I love it's interesting with Ida and Oscar, who are here from Melbourne. One thing that they've just loved about being here is that when you talk about your creative dreams, when you talk about your creative goals, the attitude in a place like LA is just like, go for it. It's possible. I had a friend who did a similar thing. I know someone who's, and it's just this constant encouragement and excitement about each other's vision. And we do see things. We do see I mean, they talk about how it's a miracle when any film gets made, any production gets performed. It's because there's so much work that goes into it.
So much. Yeah.
All different kinds of work, with the, as you said, like a lot of the blue collar folks in LA are not anything to do with film and TV, but a lot of blue collar folks in LA do have everything to do with film and TV because it takes
building the
all kinds of people to create anything. Yeah, catering. It. Yeah, exactly. All catering, of that kind of thing.
Set building. That's like building a set is construction. I mean,
yeah, exactly. It's pure construction. That has to happen very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's and it's so wonderful being in an environment like this where you are encouraged to follow your dreams and to do something different and new. And I really treasure that.
Celebrated. And
it is.
You can be, an artist of any kind, and it's celebrated here. Whatever makes you unique, it's embraced with joy.
Yeah.
And that is so rare in this world to have a place like that. And people that come here work really hard to be here. And the natives as well are just the natives, the native, Angelenos, a lot of them are artists themselves and just completely understand what that is. It's a special city. It's just a really special city. That's just kooky and creative and elegant and working class and it's everything is here.
And I think it's a cliche, but it's like like LA is just the place of dreams because
it is.
It's like it's the improbable city. It's like it was a little city and they made it into a big city by exporting water from and there's all that controversy about that, but it's just like a place that shouldn't exist. It doesn't. It doesn't have its own water. The way that LA started was like people selling putting palm trees and saying, "Hey, it's paradise! Like, come to paradise." But it's just like this weird.
It's been a film set from the beginning.
And it's been a film set from the beginning. Yeah, the whole thing is completely improbable. It's just like I don't know, but it's magical because of that. Because it's like literally built on imagination and the dreams get put out into the world and the dreams of LA and the dreams of the world come into LA and the dreams of LA come out into the world and it's just a magical place.
The other thing I love about LA, and the analogy I'm going to use may seem offensive given the time, but it's always felt like a bit of a kiln. It's always felt like a place where your dreams don't just happen. Like, you come here and in order to be able to stay here you have to work really fucking hard. And it is trial by fire, like metaphorically, and right now we're experiencing it in a very real way, but fire has always been a big part of LA and of the geography here and the way that it works with the dryness and with the Santa Ana wind. It's like we're not strangers to fire. Just nothing. This is literally the biggest one in LA. But when you come here, you have a dream, and then you learn very quickly that you have to put it all on the line, and you have to work really hard, and you have to stick it out in order for that to come about. I mean, how long have you guys been here?
I've been here for 16 years.
16, yeah.
And Andrew?
8 now? 9?
Yeah, and I've been here for 12. And,
9 years.
If we look back at our careers, like it took a lot of time for things even just to start happening. You just had to be here and, kind of prove yourself in the community. I think that's a really good thing. I'm suspicious of past success, and I'm proud of when I look back on my timeline of success that was hard won. And LA definitely, puts you through the gauntlet. And I think that's a really positive thing.
Yeah.
That you have to go through that. I think that's the hardest thing to communicate to younger people
Yeah.
who are moving here is like, you know,
Yeah,
it's going to
yeah.
take some time and you just have to stick it out.
Yeah. And I think that what it means is that, you know, it is a city just that has a lot of fuel because of that, because it's fueled by people with fuel and with people that care that much, that are willing to stick it out, that are willing to brave the work and the challenges and the, you know, the rejections and the acceptances and the rejections.
Yeah. the frequent rejections and the occasional acceptances.
Exactly. I mean, I think that just takes, you know, it means it's just like in your soul, like you don't have a choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think that there are, you know, many places on earth that celebrate that, and I think that we do, and we are able to see that in each other. And so when we look around and see the dreams of each other, you know, burning or in jeopardy, it's very traumatic. And
these places that we know and have connections
and love,
with, you know,
Pacific Palisades is like, I've filmed music videos there, and Andrew and I kind of, you know, had our first date there, and, you know, even got married there, you know. So it's like, you know, we just, you know, Duke's is a really important establishment to me, and that's just, I think as of the last time I checked it's still there, but there are
Duke's is still standing, but Moonshadow's banned.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's so crazy.
It's so crazy. Yeah, and so many places where we've had these precious moments, or we've gone to celebrate, or, you know, it's just but, you know, so many people who come here, you know, they had to put everything on the line to get here. They've been knocked down a bunch of times, and they've gotten back up again, and it's like I have the utter confidence in our community that will happen. But I think it's also just so important to hold space, one, for ourselves, as we're dealing with this, and two, for, you know, all the people around us. Just be like, I know you will get back up, but if you need to lie down for a second, also completely okay. You know, because
it's a lot, and it's a lot to process, even for those that have been, you know, there's a lot of people that have been directly, you know, at risk, like us, and have therefore been in fight or flight to see whether to move or not, and what that does to the nervous system. Then there's a lot of people that, you know, there's been some like survivor's guilt, like
definitely
that has been going on as well, and just general kind of stress from the actual fact that the air is fairly polluted right now. And there are a lot of chemicals that were used to make buildings, you know, in the 70s, before the 70s, like, that have lead, asbestos, formaldehyde. Those chemicals have now been released into the air. So there are some people that have, you know, ash as well, you know, on their property, on themselves, that are, you know, covering their doorstep. That's like not just bad chemicals, but someone else's memories. And so there's just, you know, there's a lot of complicated emotions in that, because there's also so much love for LA and so much empathy. So we've got, you know, there's been fear, anxiety, grief, guilt, as well as empathy and compassion, and fear for the future as well, for our
industry and for work.
For work. I mean, this is a financial risk really for everyone that's in our industry right now, and probably other industries too, but definitely ours. And you know, I don't know what that looks like. And we just have to, like, the more we can work together, the faster we can get through that. I think it's just something that's going to require a lot of, like, community support and community connection. And
absolutely. I think it's, a lot of people are like, I feel like shit, but I'm one of the lucky ones. I didn't lose anything, so I shouldn't feel so bad. And it's like, I mean, you can definitely focus on gratitude for not losing anything. You're also allowed to feel like shit. It's a very stressful time.
Yeah.
And all of us are still, at least until the end of tomorrow, especially, the whole area is on high alert because of the winds. And so it's like you're also living under this just like constant, it's not over, like keep an eye on things, and everyone's in that position, which is just and then, it's been interesting because I've had people literally reaching out from around the country and around the world, just like, come here, flights are cheap, I'll put you up, which is so incredibly generous. But like, I don't want to leave. I want to be here. Like, of course I want to be here with my cats, especially, and they really don't like to travel anywhere. Definitely not internationally. And if you're not here, you need someone looking after your pets, which is like a whole nother responsibility to put on another human being, which I think is particularly unfair right now. But like, all that aside, it's like, I just want to be here with my community, even though it's not the safest place to be. I mean, the reality is, none of us know where the safest place to be is because we don't know what's around the corner regardless. But I think it's just,
especially when you're on high alert.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when there's a red flag over your area.
I know. But it feels good just to be here and to know that, if your neighbors need you or your friends need you, you are just like literally a phone call away.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I feel the same. I wouldn't want to leave.
Right? Well, especially with your mom, it's
no. I mean,
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, for our listeners, we, the Night Temple, we do a monthly event, a composer event with a string quartet or string orchestra. Catherine Joy Music House is a sponsor of that event, and we do it monthly. And we made the decision, it's coming up on Saturday. We made the decision to go ahead with it, provided nothing happens in the next couple of days, which anything can happen. So we're going to go ahead with it, and we're going to do a bit of a fundraiser. So so we're going to also drop some links. We'll drop some links wherever you're listening to this or watching this. We'll drop some links to various.
Yeah, so MusiCares, I wouldn't mind just touching base quickly on some of the things that people could do.
For artists and musicians, there's MusiCares. And there's the Entertainment Community Fund for the entertainment industry in LA, and Sweet Relief Musicians Fund are providing financial assistance. So all those you can donate to if you're not in LA, or even if you are in LA and you want to support.
I know MusiCares was really, I got a small grant from them during COVID. They've really
they're fantastic.
Directly been there for people. I also think there's two different spreadsheets going around. I think one is specifically for musicians, and one is kind of for the wider composer community. I think giving directly and reaching out. So like, I've had a few friends from different cities reach out and being like, I saw the spreadsheet. Do you have any do you have any direction for me for specific people in your community you're worried about? So I think the direct money can be really helpful as well.
Absolutely. There's a few lists that we'll put up. There's there's lists, the list that you mentioned
you can give directly.
that you can give directly.
And also more generally, there's the California Community Foundation for the wider, community, not just for artists and musicians and entertainment people, but Red Cross of LA as well. And you can also donate to the fire department as well for their resources. So there's lots of options there. We'll put a list of things.
And for anyone that lost,
you can donate to or reach out to if you need support.
Yeah. And for anyone that lost instruments, Guitar Center.
Right? Guitar Center is because like my buddy Babak Lotfipur, they had literally just moved to Altadena with their 2-year-old 3 months ago. His entire drum studio went up. He managed to save like 2 really special instruments, but his kits, his all like a lifetime of percussion instruments. For me, that's like thinking about all the instruments burning, or people's like handwritten music, printed music, audio recordings. It's just that kind of loss is. My buddy Casey, who also lost his home, he was saying, like, I'm experiencing a new kind of grief. It's different than the grief you experience when you lose a loved one, when you lose things, precious things. It's a different kind of grief. And like Casey lost he's a brilliant guitarist and composer, and he lost his first ever guitar. And, that's just... It's just really tough. So, while, we're grateful they're alive, of course, we still need to hold space for that kind of grief. It's okay to feel that grief, it's.
Yeah. It's, I mean, that is a lot. I mean, I remember having a story that I wrote stolen from me when I was, in high school. It was just stolen from my dad's car. It wasn't, they didn't know that my bag had this special story in it. And
right.
And I still think about that to this day.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what it's like to lose all that music and work that you've created. And it's just a lot. And
I think it's really precious that you guys are moving forward with Night Temple. I mean, Night Temple for me is very special and unique anyway, because it's, it's a read down. So it's less of a performance and more of just a bringing people together and celebrating community and just having that time together in a much less kind of showy or, polished environment.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's already such a community space. And I think, we've been going through this for, I guess, like a week now. And, I think it is really important to take the time just to be with your people and to not directly think about the fires for a second. I think that's okay. And I know everyone's trying to be really appropriate. I really see people taking pains to be appropriate right now on social media, like not to do promotion and things like that, which is great. But I think encouraging people to get together, to share some music, to grieve together and to comfort each other and make each other feel better and laugh together, I think is so valuable for our mental and spiritual health. To remember what we hold dear and what brings us here, which is music and the celebration of music.
And it's just it's so lovely to think about seeing everybody there and sharing some pasta.
Eating together, man. It's just like sharing a meal. I mean, people are like, what do you like to do? And it's like, I like to eat food and drink wine with my friends. That's like my favorite thing to do in the whole world, because it's nothing more comforting and heartening than to have a meal with loved ones, and to, that sense of community is very healing. To be reminded that people are right next to you and they have your back. And I think I also think it opens an opportunity for people to ask for help or just to be able to wrap their hands around what they need. Because I think, as you were talking
That's
earlier,
true.
Carissa, about the brain fog and everything, it's hard to even know what you need in this time.
Absolutely.
And also just find each other, meet each other, share stories, just find out, just be together and connected.
And sometimes when you go through something like this, all you want to do is just hear somebody else talk about what they went through, even if it was identical to what you did.
Yeah.
Just, feeling like I'm not alone, having that mirror experience, or just hearing someone and lending that support. I think we could do a fundraiser online. We can share links, but it feels like it's not just that's needed. It just feels like the emotional aspect is needed too. And I think sometimes having that emotional aspect can remind and inspire us to lend more funds to the different areas that move us as well. As find that emotional support and just lending some financial support that way as well. Is just really important. And if anyone has heard the sound of snoring during this podcast, it's coming from it's coming from a tiny little dog.
My fat cat is snoring in the other room. Her snore is surprisingly loud.
Catherine, thanks so much for
as we speak, the fires are still a threat. The winds are still
the winds are picking up today, and hopefully it's not too bad, but we're gonna see what happens,
and hopefully we do get to have this gathering and there's no more
but thank you again for creating Night Temple and for creating that space for our community. I'm so grateful for it.
Thank you for
but like honestly, like I mean, it just you guys, you did this, and like Night Temple is not a money making venture. Everyone's probably in the red at the end of every Night Temple, and it takes a lot of work and energy just to put these kind of things together, and I appreciate you doing this in good times and hard times. And I'm very grateful for the work that both of you have done.
Thank you so much. It's really meaningful to have your support and to have Joy Music House as a sponsor. And we really appreciate that, because the main thing is just, joy and unity in the time that, the industry's been down. It's just this little light to be able to come together and celebrate each other's music and
absolutely better together.
Better together. Thank you so much.
We're going to have you on again for
in happier times.
Into your artistic practice and things
process
like that, and process and stuff like that.
Yeah, and more on Joy Music House too.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
In the middle of a crisis.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.